So, Glenn, just as the cross-examination actually started, Blanche, the attorney for Trump, used Cohen's language against him, first asking him if he called him a crying little something or other. Cohen responded, quote, sounds like something I would say. The judge then held a sidebar and asked Blanche, quote, why are you making this about yourself? Blanche said he had the right to show Cohen's bias, but the judge warned him, quote, don't make it about yourself. What's the strategy here? And is that kind of a good way to start cross?
Jose, it's a poor way to start. Most criminal litigators, prosecutors, and defense attorneys will tell you we follow a rule of primacy, recency. Start strong, end strong. This was one of the weakest starts I can imagine for somebody who's cross-examining the most consequential witness in the case. For the defense attorney, Todd Blanche, to stand up and open with, you called me a name on TikTok. It kind of shows the defense attorney to be thin-skinned, to be petty, and when a judge shuts you down on your very first cross-examination question, it sends a signal to the jury that this doesn't seem to be the best approach to cross-examining a guy like Michael Cohen.
I mean, a guy like Michael Cohen, who has a lot of vulnerabilities and a lot of ways that the defense could bring up the many times he has lied, that he went to prison for, and so many other things. And then you focus on the attorney and not on the defendant. What could, what could possibly be the logic of not even mentioning the defendant, mentioning yourself as an attorney?
I don't know. Perhaps wanting to portray Michael Cohen as someone who is biased and antagonistic to everybody who is now on the Trump team, including defense attorneys. It doesn't make sense. You know, I would have thought he would have opened with, now, wait a minute. You've made statements in books, on podcasts, and on media interviews saying you want my client in prison, and you will say anything, including telling this jury lies, to get him there, won't you? That's how you open. That's not objectionable. That's perfect cross-examination. And, Jose, at that point, Michael Cohen's answer doesn't even matter because as the attorney, you're telling the jury what's important. Let him say yes, let him say no, and then move on and hit him again.
Interesting. And Sue, talk about what this jury has been learning, hearing about. Boy, they've been hearing testimony about silk pajamas and boxers and what perfumes and colognes. But legally, this case is all going to boil down to documents, right? How effective has the document presentation been so far, Sue?
It's going to be about documents and about criminal intent. The documents are really important, though. There's 34 documents that are in question that the government is saying have been falsified. And a number of witnesses have spoken to them, and they're famously, there's invoices and checks and general ledger entries, but we've seen those checks that Donald Trump's signed at the White House that were paid to Michael Cohen allegedly for legal fees, and that's sort of what's in question now, because that was the money that Michael Cohen and others have said went to pay the hush money. But for all the drama that's gone on, it's going to come down to those 34 documents. And then did Donald Trump, they don't have to say that he personally falsified them or that he explicitly told someone. They just have to come down to the idea that he caused the intentional falsification of documents. He caused employees to do it. And that's why Michael Cohen's testimony on some of the meetings is really important. And it's going to be important that jurors believe him because he's got a number of key meetings where he spoke to Donald Trump about the hush money payment. We've also heard the recording, but Michael Cohen's testimony does become very important when we get down to the intent that was there about the falsification of the documents. And then to get it to the fraud, we've also got the election conspiracy, but those documents are so important in this case.
Glenn, the defense not even committing to calling any witnesses. It could present its case as early as this week. How do you see the pace going? And what do you think are the key elements that still need to be dealt with by both the prosecution and the defense?
Yeah, it looks like this case is going to get to the jury quicker than expected. Now, what I will tell you is the ordinary course of business is at the beginning of the trial, the defense will announce, we're going to call 10 witnesses, 20, 50 witnesses. And when push comes to shove, they call maybe a few, maybe none at all. And that is because they have the prosecution has the burden of proof. The defense has no burden of proof. It never shifts to the defense. They can stand there. They don't even have to make opening statements or closing arguments, and they don't have to present any witnesses. And when they don't present witnesses, I can tell you that you'll probably hear the defense attorney stand up in closing argument, say, ladies and gentlemen, you already know why we didn't present any witnesses. We didn't need to because the government failed to meet its burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So why would we bother you with witnesses? Now, that can come across as sounding strong, or it can come across as an admission that we didn't really have any witnesses who were going to exonerate Donald Trump. But I do think this case could be in the hands of the jury as early as Monday or Tuesday of next week.
And the jury, so far, I mean, with all of the different elements that have been presented to it, is going to have a tough time really focusing in on what exactly they're supposed to be judging.
Yeah.
What is it that they're exactly? And this is, I guess, the judge's responsibility at the end of this?
Yeah, the judge gives them the instructions of law. That helps channel their factual determinations. What do they have to find to conclude Donald Trump did or did not commit these offenses for which he's indicted? But I think they've brought their common sense into the jury box, because think about it. Donald Trump is the beneficiary of this entire criminal scheme, and he was caught red-handed writing reimbursement checks. You apply common sense to what we've been hearing unfold in that courtroom, and I think Donald Trump has got trouble coming.
Vaughn Hilliard, Sue Craig, and Glenn Kirshner, thank you all so very much. Really appreciate it.